أهلا بكم مشاهدينا الكرام إلى هذه الحلقة من مستقبل الطاقة. هذه ملفاتنا: تحول الطاقة، الهوة المتسعة بين دول الشمال والجنوب، وكوب 28 فرصة دولية لحوار واقعي بعيدا عن المثالية بحسب أمين عام منتدى الطاقة الدولي. عملية التحول في الطاقة هي ليست أمراً مستجداً، بل هي عملية بدأها عالمنا منذ نحو 3 قرون، متحولاً من حرق الخشب وكتل حيوية أخرى إلى الفحم، ومن بعده إلى النفط، وثم الغاز، واليوم الطاقات المتجددة. لكن ما يميز عملية التحول اليوم عما سبق هو حاجة العالم لخفض الانبعاثات بالتزامن مع نمو استهلاكه من الطاقة. وهذه الحاجة الضرورية هي ما تم ترجمتها إلى مستهدفات صافي صفر انبعاثات، والتي يجب أن يصلها العالم بحلول عام 2050 بحسب مستهدفات اتفاقية باريس للمناخ. لكن التقلبات الحادة التي عاشتها جميع أسواق الطاقة خلال السنوات الثلاث الماضية كشفت النقاب عن التعقيدات الكامنة والمتأصلة في عملية تحول الطاقة اليوم، حيث قد يبدو أن هناك تضارباً أحياناً ما بين الأهداف المتعلقة بمكافحة التغير المناخي من جانب، وما بين أمن الطاقة وكلفته من جانب آخر، وما بين التنمية الاقتصادية من ناحية أخرى. وما زاد من تعقيدات هذه المسألة التوترات الجيوسياسية وما يصحبها من تشظي تدفقات التجارة العالمية وسلاسل الإمداد. هذا بالإضافة إلى مسألة تمويل هذا التحول والقدرة للوصول إلى هذا التمويل، إلى جانب كلفته خاصة في بيئة ذات نسب فائدة مرتفعة. هذه المعطيات والمستجدات فتحت المجال مؤخرا أمام ظهور أصوات جديدة، معظمها من دول الجنوب النامية، تحمل معها أفكارا ووجهات نظر جديدة تجادل وتحاور وتناقش سردية دول الشمال المتقدمة التي تطرح نمطاً واحداً ومساراً واحداً فصلته هي على مقاسها، وتعمل في آخر عقدين أن تفرضه على دول العالم كافة. هذا الاختلاف في وجهات النظر حول تحول الطاقة بات يعرفه بعض الخبراء بالفجوة أو الهوة الجديدة الفاصلة ما بين دول الشمال والجنوب. الاختلاف كبير إلى درجة أن حتى مصطلح التحول العادل الذي يتشدق به الجميع له مفاهيم متعددة بحسب كل طرف وكل دولة. ولكن ما هي وجهات النظر الجديدة هذه التي قدمتها دول الجنوب مؤخراً؟ وكيف غيرت النقاش حول ملف تحول الطاقة؟ وهل يفتح مسارات جديدة للوصول إلى صافي صفر خلال العقود القليلة المقبلة؟ منتدى الطاقة الدولي و S&P Global Commodity Insights أقاما عدداً من اللقاءات والاجتماعات في العديد من الدول حول العالم خلال الأشهر الماضية حول هذا الموضوع، وأصدروا تقريراً هذا الأسبوع حول أبرز الآراء ووجهات النظر المختلفة في ملف تحول الطاقة. حول هذا الموضوع استضفت أمين عام منتدى الطاقة الدولي جوزيف ماكمونغل، وسألته بداية حول كيف ظهرت هذه الهوة الجديدة ما بين دول الشمال والجنوب في وجهة النظر حول ملف تحول الطاقة.
Well, Nasser, it's great to be with you again on the program, and this is a really important topic, and especially this uh, particular issue of the North-South divide on energy transition. And quite simply, I think the voice of the global South feels like they haven't been given due consideration in these global climate discussions. Developing countries believe that they're not responsible for the climate crisis and that they should be able to develop their own resources, including hydrocarbons, where appropriate for economic development. And as you know, the word energy transition means something different in the global South. It means, transitioning from, wood and biomass to maybe LPG, or in some cases from no energy to any kind of energy. So the concept, I think, of a wholesale global transition from traditional biomass to renewable energy without taking into consideration local conditions is really impractical, I think,
Mm.
in many of these situations. And so the emergence of this new north-south divide has really fostered, I think, an increasingly sharp debate, as we saw at the last climate COP meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh. And the debate focuses mainly over the cost and timing of the energy transition and compatibility with other priorities such as economic growth.
ولكن كيف أثرت أحداث السنتين الماضيتين في سردية دول الشمال والتي تعتبر أن تحول الطاقة العالمي لابد أن يسلك مسارا واحدا وبوصفة واحدة تنطبق على الجميع؟
Well, that's right. I mean, developments, I think, over the last 2 years have demonstrated that the transition is more complicated, I think,
مم.
than what we previously thought. We're transforming $100 trillion global economy to a decarbonized energy system in 25 years, and that's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
And so I think expectations of a linear global transition have really been shaken as climate goals have to now coexist with other priorities such as energy security, which is now very much a priority for many countries around the world. And of course, as we talk about the global south, energy access and affordability.
Of course.
And really, the energy crisis over the last 2 years have pointed to the need to, I think, develop a multidimensional approach that is
مم.
inclusive of different situations and starting points all over the world.
أنت تدعو جو إلى مقاربة متعددة الزوايا في التعاطي مع تحول الطاقة. ماذا تعني بذلك تحديدا؟
Yeah, so a multi-dimensional approach is really inclusive, I think, of different situations and, as I said, different starting points of all regions of the world. And it reflects, I think, a diversity of policy approaches and is really, I think, more equitable than maybe a one-size-fits-all
مم.
approach. For example, in Africa, 600 million people have lack access to electricity, and the priority for these people is to get access to reliable power and affordable power. So if advanced economies burn carbon to develop their economies in the absence of a viable alternative, so will also
مم.
the developing economies. And so the energy transition may have started in the global north, but it really has to go through the global south. And to achieve that, it has to be truly global, and we really have to attend to the energy needs of the developing world.
نسمع الكثير عن التحول العادل، لكن يبدو أن كل طرف يفهم هذا المصطلح بشكل مختلف عن فهم الطرف الآخر. حدثنا أكثر عن هذا التباين في مفهوم التحول العادل.
That's right. This was a very sort of hot topic, and I think brought to bear that just transition means different things to different people depending on what part of the world you're in. And we did, in preparation for this report, held dialogue sessions all over the world, from Africa to Latin America to Europe and the US. And so in the United States, for example, it really refers to environmental and employment needs of the poor and minority communities who are, quite often right around energy producing assets. And it also means, providing alternative opportunities in communities that are dependent on fossil fuel development as a source of jobs. In Europe, I think a just transition means recognizing and addressing different among different regions in terms of energy production and consumption. But in the developing world, a just transition means economic development and poverty alleviation due to
مم.
considerations in energy poverty and also investment decisions. So I think a better understanding of these varying concepts of justice in energy requires really a broad global perspective that encompasses the energy industry, workers, leveling up in advanced societies, and industrialization, I think, and access again
مم.
in the global south. And quite often at energy conferences that you and I attend, we hear a lot about words stranded assets. And I think in the global south, they're focused on stranded lives and making that the priority.
من الواضح أن جل النقاش حول ملفي التغير المناخي وتحول الطاقة يتمحور حول من سيدفع ويتحمل التكلفة في نهاية المطاف. بالتالي ما هي أبرز وجهات النظر التي رصدها تقريركم في هذا الصدد؟
Well, we had a lot of interesting ideas and points of view on this idea of financing the transition. In developing markets, investors are seeking clean energy investments, but there is now sort of a shortage of commercially attractive projects. The other development that we had, of course, was this U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, which has been welcomed by U.S. domestic and some international companies. And it's estimated that when all is said and done, this is basically a investment in clean energy of up to about 370 billion US dollars. So there's no doubt that there will be enormous technology transfer opportunities that will come out of the U.S. policy for the transition. And I think that will really benefit not just the rest of the world, but especially the global south in making, making these technologies commercially available at affordable prices. But really, one of the biggest challenges to financing the clean energy projects is really risk premiums and the high cost of capital, particularly in the global south. And in these projects, investor risks are primarily policy driven. And, so companies have really limited experience and tools available to assess and manage risk in a business environment heavily influenced by policy uncertainties rather than commercial market forces. So unless new approaches are developed, I think investors will continue to apply sort of high hurdle rates and constraining energy investments, particularly in the global south, where it's really, really badly needed.
كيف كان تجاوب الجهات التي تحدثتم إليها حيال الدور الذي سيلعبه النفط والغاز في مزيج الطاقة مستقبلا؟
Well, of course, this is a controversial topic, and it was so also in our dialogues. But I do think there was generally a consensus, a wide consensus in our dialogues that oil and gas will continue to play a critical role in providing the world energy, not just now, but well into the future. The truth is that oil and gas accounts for about half of the world's energy needs today, and without it, the world would indeed be a lot poorer. We all agree that emissions from oil and gas must fall significantly over the next few decades if we're to meet these climate goals that we've set from the Paris Agreement. But we can't lose sight of competing priorities for both affordable and reliable energy. And I think this is why in our discussions, there was a lot of discussion about the massive investment needed in scaling up of decarbonization technologies, whether it be carbon capture, use and storage, direct air capture, which is getting a lot of attention these days, and the circular carbon economy that I think there's a lot of investment and momentum behind, particularly in the Gulf region.
أخذاً بعين الاعتبار كل ما ناقشناه جو، ما الذي يجب أن يحدث في الطريق نحو كوب 28 لردم الهوة في مواقف دول الشمال والجنوب وإحداث تقدم واختراق في اجتماعات دبي نهاية العام؟
Well, I think COP28, we've got a great opportunity to have a very pragmatic discussion. And my hope is that we will focus on progress over perfection. I think so many of the past discussions have been about, achieving perfect one-size-fits-all solutions. And I think the last 2 years has shown us that we have other competing priorities, and there are different starting points and roadmaps for different parts of the world. I'm very enthused that my friend Dr. Sultan is the president of this COP. I think it's going to be refreshing to have a CEO in charge that has you interview a lot of CEOs in your job, and CEOs focus on metrics and deliverables, and so therefore I think we're going to see a lot more progress on this financing solution and addressing this north-south divide. And again, I think, as I like to say, we'll hopefully have more when we come out of this COP. There'll be a lot more progress made, and we won't focus as much on perfect solutions, which in the end may be elusive.
نتوقف الآن مع فاصل قصير نتابع بعده في مستقبل الطاقة. فرصة كبرى لدول الخليج بأن تصبح مراكز عالمية لإعادة تدوير المعادن. أهلا بكم من جديد. معضلة تخزين الطاقات المتجددة أمر واقع حاليا، لكنها معضلة ستزداد حدة مع ارتفاع إنتاج تلك الطاقات. هذا ما أكده رئيس معهد بحوث الطاقة الكهربائية EPRI أرشاد منصور، الذي توقع الحاجة إلى قدرات تخزين تتراوح ما بين 16 ساعة و24 ساعة على الأقل، وهو ما يفوق طاقة أيونات الليثيوم المستخدمة في تقنيات اليوم. من جهة أخرى اقترح منصور على دول الخليج التي قد لا تملك المعادن اللازمة لصناعة الطاقات المتجددة إقامة مصانع لإعادة تدوير المعادن والبطاريات ومكوناتها لخلق مراكز تدوير عالمية ضخمة، حيث أشار إلى أنه من الممكن مثلا استرجاع ما قد يصل إلى 90% من الليثيوم المستخدم في صناعة البطاريات المنتهي عمرها. لنستمع.
Well, thank you for having me. I think energy storage is a way to create flexibility in the grid. So today, the best way to create flexibility is demand flexibility. Send a price signal to customers, so during the daytime when the sun is there, you use as much electricity as you want to, but send a price signal so the electricity is a bit more expensive in other time. So we change our behavior. That's not storage, but that's demand flexibility. The storage that we are using today are lithium-ion-based storage, same storage you have in your electric vehicle. And if you look at the California presentation, you need 50 gigawatt of storage, and they have 50 gigawatt of generation. And that storage by 2045. So lithium-ion-based storage, 4 hours, 6 hours, is done today, available today, and that's what we will need today. Tomorrow, 2030 and beyond, we will need 16 hours, 24 hours. There has to be technology other than lithium-ion, and there are more than 70 technologies worldwide looking at what we call long-duration energy storage, or LDES.
وما هي حجم الاستثمارات التي تحتاجها هذه التقنيات؟
So the investment depends on what you are investing in, and if you look at, there is no rule of thumb of how much investment you need, but if you're going to be investing in 50 gigawatt of, let's say, solar in the Gulf region, you will need 40 to 50 gigawatt of storage. And then you look at the cost for storage, you could be looking at, depending on when, at what time you are buying it, anywhere from $1,000 a kilowatt to higher. But there are other types of storage that the prices can come down, which are thermal storage. So it depends on what storage you're going to go with, but just like there is a cost to put generation plants, there's a cost to put solar, there will be a cost to put storage, and your cost will be the amount of storage you need and the type of storage you will use. Lithium ion will be expensive. Some of the long duration storage will be less expensive, but it will give you a longer duration of hours.
هناك الكثير من التحديات التي تواجه تقنيات تخزين الطاقة، منها الوقت والسعة وأهمها المعادن. كيف يمكن التغلب على ذلك؟
So, a great question. This transition to a clean energy system means we are going to move from a fuel-based energy systems to a material-based energy system. Give you the example, your car has 20 gallons of gasoline, oil. Electric vehicle has 20 pounds of lithium. You look at a solar or a wind turbine, doesn't have a gas, it doesn't have oil, but it has tons of rare earth element, cobalt, nickel, lithium. So we don't have fuel, but we have a lot of materials. These are minerals that are now, today, only mined in 2 to 3 countries and processed in 2 to 3 countries. So the future challenge on energy security is not what we are seeing on natural gas supply, but future challenge is who's going to control the mine, who's going to do the processing. This is where the greatest opportunity that you have in countries that are not rich in mineral. So whether it's the Gulf countries, Korea, Japan, they don't have minerals. But there are innovative technologies today from many startup companies worldwide. You can reclaim 80 to 90% recycling. So imagine in Gulf, if you don't have the mineral, but you create huge recycling plant. See, fuel-based system, once you burn the fuel, you cannot reclaim. Material-based system, once the battery is no longer working, you can still reclaim 90% of the lithium. So I can see Gulf becoming a hub of recycling for lithium, cobalt, rare earth element, and that's a unique opportunity that this system gives you that you don't get on a fuel-based system, because once you burn the fuel, you don't bring the fuel back.
وهنا ما هي المعادلة الحقيقية التي يمكن تطبيقها من حيث التقنيات والأسعار والاستثمارات؟
So if you look at what the price of electricity today is in the Gulf, and if you look at when you do the energy transition, what will it be? Our analysis shows, depending on how you do it, you could have a 20 to 30% increase because you have to build an electric grid to supply all your electricity. However, if people are using more and more electricity because electric vehicle, because of heat pump, the average cost of electricity could actually go down, even though the cost of electricity is going up because people are using more. And so done right, if we do this transition right, we should make sure that the energy bill that an average customer in Gulf pays, energy bill, that's gasoline, that's electric, that's natural gas, 3 bills, should be actually less in 2050 than it's today, if we do it right.
بهذا مشاهدينا نصل إلى نهاية هذه الحلقة من مستقبل الطاقة. إلى اللقاء.
لمتابعة المزيد من الأخبار والبرامج والقصص الإنسانية والوثائقيات والتقارير الإخبارية، لا تنسوا الاشتراك في قناتنا على يوتيوب، الضغط على زر الإعجاب وتفعيل جرس التنبيهات.